So welcome to the OTS Connects session on developing global citizenship through collaborative inquiry-based learning with Jim Carlton and Mallory Bickley. I'll let Jim introduce himself and then I'll introduce myself. So are you ready, Jim?
Sure, thanks, Maddie. So my name's Jim Carlton, and right now I'm a teacher librarian in Wyville, which is basically around Midland. And I've worked with Mallory for I don't even know how many years now. One of those so many years that you can't even remember how many years now. And
about 20.
About 20, I guess, yeah. And probably about 15 of those years ago, I was at the point of my teaching career. I'd probably been teaching for about 10 or so years then. And I still liked it, but I was just losing my passion. I think I was still a decent teacher, but I was just basically locked into the four walls of my classroom, going through the curriculum and sort of, okay, check, do this, do that. And I was just getting a little bit bored myself. So we stumbled onto this whole global collaborative learning thing, and Mallory and I were in the same school back then, and we both got really into it. And for myself, and Mallory will let you, as well as herself, it sort of reinvigorated my passion for teaching, because now I wasn't just teaching things that I already knew and just imparting the knowledge that, limited as it was, that I might have to students. It was my students and myself and Mallory and other people around the world coming up with engaging in real and meaningful problems that had our students making a difference in their local communities and across the country, around the world. And it just changed everything for me. So as a teacher. So hopefully by the end of the night, we're going to show you a bunch of different projects and different organizations where really we'll just be showing you a couple of good projects within those organizations, and you'll have some resources then that hopefully will allow you to, if you haven't already, to take off into the world of global cooperative learning.
And I'm Mallory, also your moderator, and I'm actually a retired teacher. I've been retired for a year and 2 months now, which is really exciting, but I'm also, I have the privilege of working with an organization called Taking It Global a couple of days a week, helping them with some collaborative learning. And just as Jim said, this kind of global collaborative learning, integrating these projects into social studies and science and literacy programs really invigorated my teaching. The other thing that we wanted to mention is we did a similar presentation last year, but we have added for people who were in the OTS Connect, in our OTS Connect session last year. So we have not stumbled across, but we've included some new projects that are really exciting, some that are just starting this year and some that we've just learned about. So we hope that you find it really valuable, especially for those who are integrating the revised social studies curriculum. There are some great global connections and environmental studies and for the global classrooms that you might be, or global topics that you're covering through those. The other thing is that most of our examples are elementary because we were elementary teachers, but many of these can be transferred to secondary projects, and a couple of the organizations that we work with do specialize in secondary education and working with that age group. So I'll just go ahead to the beginning. So Jim, do you want to run this activity?
Sure.
Or do you want me to just go ahead?
I mean, if you're good, if there's no issues.
I'm actually good. I did my little bit of paperwork that I needed to do. So just getting us thinking about what is a global citizen. So this is a question that you might ask your students when we start this kind of inquiry. So using the whiteboard tool and the text tool. So your text tool is this, it looks like the big letter A. If you can press that and then click somewhere on the whiteboard, if you can put in a name or an idea of someone who you think is a global citizen in your life. It doesn't have to be somebody that we know. It doesn't have to be somebody famous, but if you could just put in the chat, or either in the chat if you can't, or if on the whiteboard, who a global citizen is in your life. I'll put Mark Kielberger here for you, Ashley. So there's definitely a really good mix of people, some that we know from the news, like Mark Kielberger, Barack Obama, the Me to We brothers. It was We Day yesterday in Toronto, and also now it was We Family Day, which is pretty exciting for some families. Okay, so, and it's a really good range. So hopefully everybody has somebody that they can identify with, who they believe is a global citizen. Now, maybe thinking about those people, what character traits or qualities do you think that these global citizens possess? If you could do the same activity, go to the text tool and then type in the qualities that they possess, character traits. Yeah, Lauren, I'm gonna my idea of a global citizen. I'll be sharing that in just a second. We'll be sharing that. So really positive character traits: caring for others, communication, empathy, integrity. All of these positive character traits are ones that many school boards have adopted in their character education programs. And what we hope to show through the presentation is some of these. So you'll see that these traits aren't just words; they become action words in classrooms when we're looking at taking action for issues, global issues, and how students can make positive action to make a difference in the world. So someone asked me who I think is a global citizen, and I have, Jim and I have known Jennifer Corriero and Mike Furtick for probably about 12, 15 years, for about 12 or 15 years, and they're probably the wisest people that we know. To me, that they're really strong global citizens. They started the organization Taking It Global when they were 19 and 20 years old because they saw a need to connect students around the world in social action. And when Jennifer was about 20 years old, she had a thing on a Starbucks cup. So you kind of know that you've made it when you've made it onto a Starbucks cup. So I want you to think about this quote as we're going through the presentation. The way I see it, I wonder if young people were actively engaged in all aspects of society and thought of themselves as community leaders, problem solvers, role models, mentors, and key stakeholders, how would the world change? So that's Jennifer Corriero, and to me, she definitely is a global citizen because she thinks globally, she acts locally, she acts globally, she inspires me, and I know that she inspires Jim as well to work with students and help them create change in the world and in their class. So Jim, do you want to talk about the next couple slides?
Yeah, I mean, so we all know that all the kids that we work with are naturally curious about the world. And what we want to do is just sort of build on that curiosity and help them to figure out, one second, just going to turn my thing down here. So how they can, we're going to, instead of just teaching them, we're going to help them to facilitate change in their communities, country, and the world. So how are we going to do that? And that's basically what we'll be looking at over the next little bit here. So one great place to start, if you're just thinking, okay, so where am I going to start? Back in the fall of 2015, the United Nations revised what was formerly known as the Millennium Development Goals, and they set targets for sustainable development by the year 2030 in these 17 different areas. So what we'd like you to do, Mally's just going to throw the link into the chat box, and you can click on the link to the Sustainable Development Goals, and just go spend maybe just a few minutes, and where you can just sort of explore some of the Sustainable Development Goals on your own. And then also, all the links and everything that we're going to be discussing in these presentations will be sent out to you afterwards, if I get that right. Isn't that right, Carlton?
Yep. So when
Sorry,
yeah. So just to review, for some people who haven't been in OTF Connect sessions before, we'll be putting links in the chat box. And if you click on those links, it'll take you directly to the website. Sometimes it'll be videos and sometimes it'll be websites. So as Jim said, if you want to take maybe just a couple of minutes to take a look at some of these Sustainable Development Goals, and then we'll just go on and give you some examples of how they can be integrated.
And then I guess what I'm getting at too is, do all the links get emailed out to them afterwards or something? Or
yeah. At the end of the webinar, they'll be posted on a resource page.
Right. So you don't have to keep track of them all right now. Thanks, Cora. And what we're going to be doing is, as you're looking at some of these development goals, then what we're going to show you is some resources in a few minutes that will, different projects that will directly link to these specific goals. But the main thing right now is the same with your students, is you want to find out the thing that you and or your students, what is it out of this list that you're passionate about?
So just a little bit of history of the Sustainable Development Goals. So as Jim said, they were started in 2015 and looking at a 15-year agenda for hopefully the world working together to achieve these goals. But previous to that were the Millennium Development Goals, and there were huge strides in global issues, global awareness, global problems. So it wasn't quite finished, and I think there were 10 Millennium Development Goals. Some of the same, poverty, zero hunger, quality education, clean water for all. They've expanded them. But we came across this really great video that sort of talks to what would happen if we just stopped at the end of the 10 years of the Millennium Development Goals and didn't go any farther. And it's one that we've used with students when we're talking about goal setting and introducing things like the Millennium Development Goals or the Sustainable Development Goals, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So when we watch videos through Blackboard, there's a couple of ways to do it. I'm going to be we're going to be doing a sort of a web share, a web tour that's going to take us directly to that link for most of you. For the people who are on mobile devices, I'm going to put the link in the chat box, and you can click on it and it will take you to the video. For the rest of us, hopefully it's going to be working. So we'll just watch the movie. And unfortunately, you're going to get that little, the ad at the beginning. So just skip that. We all won't have the same one. When you're finished, if you can give us a green check mark. Yeah, Joanne definitely, was it Joanne? Yeah, definitely made me laugh, but also made me think. And I like showing this to kids because they can identify with people like Usain Bolt and Coldplay. They certainly understand who those people are and how they've also made a global impact. So it's a great video to show. So are we okay to go on? It looks like most people have finished. So how can we make this fit into social studies curriculum and integrate it into our program? And this is sort of a little bit of the theory that goes behind it, but we really want kids to understand the world through have it be interdisciplinary. We don't want to be just teaching global studies. It can be these projects are definitely integrated. They can be integrated into all sorts of subject areas. We know that we don't have time to be teaching just specific subjects anymore. We need to be addressing all aspects of curriculum and the skills that come out of it. Like what are we really hoping for? Are they what they call hard skills like math and literacy? The math skills and the computation skills. But the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development have taken a look at the skills that employers would like their employees to have in 2015, and also projected what they want students in school to know, to be experiencing now so that they're employable in 2015. And if you take a look at them, none of those things are like computation and cursive writing and spelling. They're all the higher order deep learning skills. And the top one is complex problem solving. So how can we be working together so that we can encourage and foster the students to have these skills, and what kind of inquiry-based programs are we going to have in our classrooms so that we can be fostering those? And what we really believe is some of these programs and projects can really foster these skills like collaboration, the 6 C's that Michael Fullan talks about: character education, citizenship, communication, critical thinking, and problem solving, collaboration, and creativity. You'll see they're evidenced in these projects, but not only that, it expands past those. We also believe that those traits that you talked about when we were talking about global citizenship, caring, compassion, community, cooperation, it builds a totally different classroom culture, that students show courage and empathy and inclusiveness, and they're not only words. We remember the days that we would teach caring. It would be caring month, so we'd do a poster about caring, check it off in the curriculum, and that would be it. But you really see that these become action words. Did you want to talk a little bit about something like that too, Jim, but how that's impacted?
Yeah, you pretty much just said exactly what I was going to say, that, yeah, previously for myself, it would be like caring month, and that was the character trait that we were covering. So it'd be like, okay, teaching grade 1 or whatever, let's make some posters about caring or whatever, and then check, I've done it and gone on. But like Mallie was saying, and like I was saying at the beginning, once we got involved in these problems and these projects, you realized you were actually helping to create more caring and compassionate and courageous individuals. And as an aside from that, what seemed like an aside at the time, we realized, okay, we're helping our students to become better communicators and collaborators, and all of those 6 C's that were in the previous slide. Their critical thinking and their projects all developed their creativity. All those things were happening, and what we really love now, all the people who have been involved in this kind of thing, is the fact, I think, that people like Michael Fullan, that instead of it just being sort of this grassroots movement from below, it's starting to come down from up above in the sort of pedagogical world, I guess, as people start to realize that maybe there's a better way to sort of get our kids involved in the curriculum than perhaps we were previously doing. So I think it really does help. These types of things, help to prepare our students to be, prepare them for the world. Not only does it develop all the things that are right here, but I think it helps to prepare them for the world that they're going to be in. And so like Nali was saying, to do these projects though, they're going to, most of them anyway, we're going to show you a variety. Some that don't take very much time, and some that take extensive amounts of time. But either way, what I think you're going to end up finding is that it's difficult to do them if you're just trying to cover them in traditional sort of, now I'm going to do my 50 minutes of social studies, and oh, here's my 100 minutes literacy period is earlier in the day, and the two things aren't connected, and so on and so forth. I think the only way to really do these things is to sort of create those cross-curricular connections. And as you'll see, as you look at these different projects, you'll see that they fit into all different areas of your curriculum. And so this is just like a challenge-based or an inquiry-based framework. So, you know, the whole inquiry-based learning now, again, that's kind of come back around full circle. Back when we first started doing this stuff, it was project-based learning and, you know, challenge-based learning, inquiry-based learning, whatever you want to call it. It's basically all the same thing, where you come up with a big idea, you and your students develop the questions that you want to look at together. You go through the different activities, and ultimately you want to have some sort of action that you're going to engage in, and that the students are publishing. What I really like in these projects, you'll see that the students are publishing the work not for you as the teacher. Often what we'll hear the kids saying is they're not just doing it for a mark, although you know, obviously we as educators are going to be still assessing them on this, but they're doing it because it's real and meaningful, and they want to make a difference in what they're doing. So again, we're going to integrate them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a few different organizations that have a bunch of different projects already on the go that will help you to do sort of all the things that we've just been talking about. And so the first one that we're going to be talking about is IRON, or the International Education and Resource Network. And this was the sort of the network that we came across, I don't know, probably it was around 15 years ago, stumbled across it almost by accident, and it was like, this is the one that sort of changed it all for us as we started to work with some of these projects. So IRON is a network of students and teachers from over 100 different countries around the world, and the idea being that their tagline is that you learn with the world, not just about it. So you're not just doing a project about different things that are happening in the world, you're actually engaged with other students around the world in those projects. So if you're looking at something like climate change, it's a global issue, and so you're working with others globally in order to affect change in that area. So we're just going to look at a quick little video that will introduce IRON a little bit better to you, and then we'll look at some of the we'll look more specifically at some of the projects now.
So again, I'm just going to put the link. We'll be following in on the whiteboard for those on a computer, but those who are on a mobile device, the link is there. And Shelley, you might want to click on that in another browser. We've still got some people watching, so we'll just give you another second to finish that up. Okay, perfect.
Okay, so that was just a quick little introduction to IRON. And like we were saying, there are, I don't know how many, did you say 200 or? probably a couple hundred
projects.
Projects already on the go. And so Mally's just thrown up a link to the a PDF copy of the IRON project book. So if you want to just click on that and have a look at some of the projects, you can see that they're all sort of organized into different curriculum areas. And then there'll be just a little brief description of, I'm just clicking on the link myself here, it's this. So this is taking you to the IRON website, and then you'll see that the project book is there, so you can just click on the PDF copy of it. So 94 projects. Oh, I exaggerated. I think at one time they were probably up to a couple hundred. But you can see there's a whole variety of different projects, anywhere from folk tales and storytelling, where you're comparing different folk tales with other countries from around the world, to exchanging holiday cards, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit, looking at toys around the world, comparing schools with one another, looking at climate change, solar cooking, all sorts of things. Some of the projects are just light and fun and just sort of cultural connections, like the teddy bear project, where you exchange teddy bears with another class somewhere else in the world, and the teddy bears then become ambassadors who travel around with your students, and then you can create a blog or whatever, and just the teddy bear then goes home, that came from, let's say, Japan. Your students take them home at Christmas or wherever, birthday parties, whatever you're doing at school, and then they create posts about what their teddy bear is doing at the same time that the teddy bear that's in Japan is doing the same thing. So that one's just like a fun cultural exchange to anywhere up to more serious issues, looking at the effects of war on child soldiers and those sorts of things. Whole range of different projects in there. It's a great place to start with these kinds of projects because they're already on the go. So they have some projects in French, I'm seeing. Most of the projects will be in English. It's translated. They're translated into, again, I'd be taking a little bit of a guess, but 5 to 10 different languages, including French. But primarily the projects are conducted in English. A lot of the countries where English is a second language, they like to participate in these projects, and they like to participate in English because it's a real and meaningful way for them to learn English. So just a couple of examples of the projects. One of the projects is, well, first I guess within IRON there's a safe password protected space where students can communicate, collaborate, and share. Not everything has to be done in there, but it is one option that you have within IRON to work in that safe and collaboration space. Sorry, I'm just getting a bit confused here. Okay, so this project here is the Our Rivers, Our World project. And so students from around the world, it's like a collaborative project that looks at, that analyzes water quality and the effect of water on different communities. So if anybody's traveled and very much at all, they would realize, holy cow, that water in Canada and North America, we take it for granted. And other parts of the world, water is a very precious commodity. And so these, like we were saying, these projects are all inquiry-based. So all you've got this big topic of you're going to be looking at water quality in different communities from around the world. You're going to be connected with these different partners. They might be in Russia, they might be in Azerbaijan, it could be Uganda, maybe somebody else is in Japan, wherever. And then together as a group, you're going to come up with some sort of inquiry. And so you could do the same project 2 years in a row, and you're going to have different groups, and the inquiry will take on a whole different direction. It would never really will be the same thing twice. So maybe 1 year, the group might decide they want to focus on the effect of agricultural practices on water, or industrial pollution, or scarcity of water, or another year it might be you know, the effects of diet on water consumption. So it's all going to depend on what your particular class and the group that you're working with wants to engage in. And the cool thing about this project and a few other ones is you can either do it just with your class by yourself, and you would work in the forum and you would see what other classes are doing, but you might not be, but essentially you're sort of working what we would call like in a standalone project. So it's your class working and sharing it within the forum. But a really cool way to get involved in some of these projects is something called a learning circle. And this is one of the projects that can be a part of a learning circle. And learning circles, they run 2 times throughout the year, from September to January, and then again from January till May to try and fit in with the semester, secondary semester system. And what happens then, and what we really like about the learning circles, is you're actually then put in a group. There'll be a facilitator, and they'll put you in a group with 5 or 6 other countries, and try to make it, as age appropriate as possible. And then you'll have somebody walking you through on a 12-week sort of basis, week by week. Okay, week 1, this is what we're going to do. Week 2, this is what we're going to do. Week 3, this is what they're going to do. So if you're brand new to this sort of learning, it's a great way to do it because you've got somebody who's already done these sorts of projects before, and they're going to guide and walk you right through the whole entire process. And we'll be showing you in a minute how you can sign up for the IRON, and once you're signed up for IRON, you can choose to join any of the projects that you saw and or sign up for one of the learning circles. In this case, your first chance to do it would be to sign up for the learning circles that would be coming up from January till May. So those particular projects, if you were doing it like a learning circle type of thing, it's a bit of a commitment because you're doing it as a 12-week sort of project. Another one that's not going to take as much time as would be like a simple holiday card exchange. You would join up for IRON. You would join the holiday card exchange. Again, a facilitator, somebody would put you in a group where you would be grouped with 5 or 6 or 7 other classrooms around the world. And essentially all you're going to do is you're going to make cards that revolve around the holidays and traditions within whatever country and culture that you're a part of. So in our case, we're going to make, obviously Christmas cards and those sorts of things. And then you mail them off to your partners around the world. And again, then there's the forum that you can connect with one another online with each other. So, and the kids love it. They love actually getting the physical cards. And so here you can see, was this Moscow, Molly?
This is actually,
Somewhere
this
Russia,
is Ukrainian class.
Great project, nice and easy and light and fun. Another one that's a little bit more serious, I think Mally's done it down to maybe grade 4 if you have a sort of, but you wouldn't probably want to go much lower than that. It's the Shinto Project, and the book over on the right is a Shinto, and it's really sort of like a global literature circle in a way. When you join this project, which runs out of Japan, you get sent a copy of Shinto, and that's the book over on the right. It's a Japanese book, so it's really cool because it goes backwards, and there's, it's written in Japanese and stuff. But the illustrations are unbelievable in it, and it takes you through the story of a little girl who essentially died when the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, and she transforms into a peace dove, a Shinto bird, and becomes a symbol of world peace, of children and world peace. And so you connect with your partners around the world. And again, you could do it 2 years in a row, and it could take on a whole different flavor. But essentially, what you're going to be doing is looking at the text, and then you can do, text-to-text comparisons, like with the you can see the other book there, My Hiroshima. Students can look at, maybe they'll decide that they want to look at where there is actual conflict in the world right now, and how that is, affecting the students. And we've had years where we've had participants in the project where there's actually conflict between the different countries at the same time. So Iran, Iraq, Palestine, Israel, all those students are engaged in the project as their countries are actually in conflict with one another, and it is unbelievably powerful. So much more powerful than just reading about these particular conflicts. You're actually, instead of what we say, instead of just getting the CNN or whatever version of the world, you're actively engaged with people in those parts of the world and seeing how war and poverty or whatever issue it is affecting them. So like we said, you don't always know where these things are going to go. They're usually inquiry-based, so they're student-driven. And so one year, I'll let Mally explain what happened with this particular part of the Shinto Project with her students.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So for Shinto is an amazing project, and as Jim said, it never is the same project twice, which is the wonderful thing about these these organic projects. There's a different outcome every time. So one year we were working with a class in part of the Shinto Peace Project is to send books to students around the world who were in conflict areas. It sounds like a great idea, but it was actually quite difficult because the conflict areas that the kids chose were places like Afghanistan and Iran and Iraq. So anyway, we were able to get some books to a girls' school in Afghanistan, which all in itself was quite the feat. We sent them with the armed forces, and it was very cool. And what we got back in return, really, really long story, the government ended up sending a teacher from Afghanistan to my class, and he brought books in response to the kids, my kids creating books for the girls in Afghanistan. The girls in Afghanistan in return made books for my kids, and the teacher gave them to them, which was really powerful. And what one of the students said is, well, these are absolutely beautiful, but wouldn't it be great if we could create a book of all the kids in the Shinto Project and see how they imagine peace? There's a book that we used, and I've got a list of mentor text at the end of the presentation. It's called What Does Peace Look Like? And it examines what peace looks like, feels like, smells like, tastes like, and feels like from children's perspectives all around the world. And we were studying that as our mentor text for this, as well as Shinto. So the kids actually sent out the email to their project partners, and in the Shinto Project, including the kids in Afghanistan, and we ended up getting some really amazing images. And at the same time, we were learning how to make videos. And, we see the kids see a lot of media, and I really wanted them. We really believe in having students produce media, not just being consumers. So they created this little video called Imagine Peace. And these are images from kids from Taiwan, Afghanistan, Palestine, Israel, Canada, the United States, and Australia. And we'll just show you a couple seconds, about 4 minutes long, but we'll just show you a little bit of it so that you just get the gist of how this was put together. And it really just came from one of the students sitting there with these books from Afghanistan saying, I wonder what the kids in Afghanistan think peace looks like. And this is what they created together. It took a little while to do it, but again, it's just one of those things that, oops, why is that not working? I know why. Sorry, hold on a sec. Here we go. Got the whole thing in there. Oh. Just grab that link again, sorry. It's hard to talk and paste at the same time. Here we go. That's definitely a collaboration, an international collaboration based on the students looking at one piece of literature and giving a response, and some communication in the IRON virtual classrooms or forums or whatever we call them, but there was some communication, and it came from the students' inquiry question. And what we did is we submitted it to a couple of film festivals, and they actually won a My Hero, which is another learning circle, the My Hero project. They won the International Peace Prize that was given by Ron Kovic, who is the subject of the movie Born on the 4th of July. He's a peace advocate in the United States. Really, really cool guy. It was a really wonderful process, but as Jim said, outcomes are completely different every year. And now they've introduced the book Hiroshima and Today, so focusing on actually doing a lot more talking about the Sadako Peace Project and the effects of Hiroshima in that as well. So what we're going to get you to do right now, I'm going to put a link in the chat, and it's going to take you to the IRON page where the project coordinators have actually submitted how their projects link to the Sustainable Development Goals. So you've seen a couple of projects that definitely do link the water and the water quality in different countries would definitely fit into water quality around the world, and Shinto fits into peace and peace advocacy. And so what we're going to do is just take a look at that link, and maybe if you could find a project and just click around and see if you can find a project that would fit with one of these Sustainable Development Goals, and then we're going to come and do a little bit of sharing. So we'll give you maybe 3 minutes to take a look at that. So I'll just go grab the link. So how these can fit into a project in your classroom, and taking a look at how this is linking the Sustainable Development Goals to the project, and then we'll share what you find in just a couple minutes. So I'll put 3 minutes on the timer, but how about 2.5 minutes? That probably would be a little better. So 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay. So click on that link where it says IRON Pages UN Sustainable Development Goals, and take a look at how some of these projects are linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. What I'll do is I'll put up the next slide so that if you find a project that you can share with others, put in the title of the project and what Sustainable Development Goal it links to. So when you go to that page, it'll bring up as you scroll down, it'll bring up some of the Sustainable Development Goals. Click on one that you're interested in. For example, I clicked on Ending Poverty Everywhere, and it came up with 2 projects, like Finding Solutions to Hunger and Money Matters, and how that ties to that Sustainable Development Goal. Tanya, yeah, these SDGs definitely link with the We Day initiatives. It's like taking positive action to make change in the world. So definitely the things that the kids saw at We Day would fit into the Sustainable Development Goals and using that. And as a teacher, I did use the We Day curriculum to support some of these projects because they do have great resources as well. If you did find one of the projects that fit with, that align with the SDGs, if you could type it in the box. And Tanya, was my microphone off when I was talking about We Day? I'm sorry.
No, I think we got it, Molly. We heard it.
Oh, sorry, my mic keeps cutting out. Some of these projects like Girl Rising about gender equality and girls' rights, that's a new project that's come up. We don't have experience with that, but we'd love to see how that one goes. And Money Matters is one that that we had a school do a couple of years ago, and it really helped with the financial literacy program. So it really supported that. And these projects as well, when we're looking at, especially specifically in the new grade 6 or revised grade 6 curriculum, when we're looking at organizations that support global change, there are links to some organizations and support materials from the organizations within the resources for these projects as well. It really is a good resource sort of beyond the doors of the Canadian organizations. There are a lot of organizations that are supporting as well that are linked in the IRON projects. So I'll just maybe give you 30 seconds and we can go on. Empowering girls and women is a real theme in these projects right now as well. Okay, so we'll just maybe go on. So to join IRON, I'll just put maybe if Jim will describe that, I'll get the links and put them in.
Okay, so you can, to join IRON, you can either just go to iron.org and go to the home page and you'll see a join IRON link there. Or you can see that we put a direct link right to join up in the chat box here. And again, that will everybody will get this at the end as well. When you go to fill out your information, you'll see that there's a spot where it says additional comments, projects, interests. So in there, just put in OTF Connects. And that will give you, because normally to be a part of IRON, it would be $25 a year. So this will give you a whole year for free. And then next year, hopefully if you found it useful, then you can join again, get your school to pay for it. But if ever at any time you find that your school is not going to pay for it or whatever, just get a hold of us and we'll get you in there again, because we don't want people not to be in there just because your school is not going to pay for it. The other thing that you're going to want to do is click on where it says sign me up for IRON Newsflashes, and then once a month you'll get an email that will tell you all the new projects that are starting, that will remind you to sign up for, learning circles are going to be starting again in January, sometime in December you're going to have to sign up. So it will just remind you of all those things. So basically, when you go to sign up, just remember to put in OTF Connects and sign up for the IRON Newsflash. We're not going to actually take the time to do that right now, but just when you go to do it later.
Yeah, and I see that just because it pops up on my computer, I see Kara's already signed up. So congratulations, Kara. We hope that you signed up for a project, because not only do Jim and I use IRON projects in our classrooms and teaching practice, we volunteer as the country coordinators, so we're available to help you if you run into difficulties or have an idea or would like to connect with another class. We can maybe guide you in that way. And just sort of going back to the holiday cards project, I see that a couple of people were really excited about it, and the registration is happening now. And I think Jim just signed up this week, and it have until
October 31st to register.
October 31st, yeah, because of course the major holiday is Christmas, and so if you sign up for that before October 31st, you'll get in. And be put in a really great group of people. These teachers have been doing it for years, and it's just like amazing. Jim had one of the principals of the school visit his class last year, and that principal was from Russia, so how cool is that? So hopefully you'll sign up for iEarn. Another organization that helps with inquiry-based learning and provides support materials is Taking It Global, and I'll just put their web address in the chat. And Taking It Global I started off by saying that my global citizen that I really admired was Jennifer Corriero, and she's one of the founders. And they founded this organization in 2000, yeah, because it's 2001, because they wanted a way to connect students and inform, inspire, and involve students in global issues and understanding and acting on the world's greatest challenges. So Taking It Global offers a lot of programs. They have some great programs and apps, and I just want to share with you a couple of simple ones that these are things that you can take back to your classroom tomorrow and do with your kids. And they're supporting some of these global ideas and global issues and getting them involved in some small ways and also providing some information. So one of the programs that they have, okay, Judy, I'll reactivate your account. If you can send me an email at the end, I'll go back and reactivate your account. So if you could do that, that would be really helpful. Okay, so Commit to Act is a program that encourages students to take small actions and see how their small actions can be accumulated to make a larger impact. One of the comments that we often get from kids is like, what is it, does it really make a difference that I don't use a water bottle, or that I don't use a plastic water bottle, or that I recycle? How does the small action that I do really help the world? So Taking It Global developed this program, and it's also an app for the iPad and the iPhone that tracks their actions. So kids can make a commitment. For example, one that I was just in Finland working with a group of students and a group of teachers, and we were working with the kids, and one group decided that they wanted to have more vegan options in their cafeteria. Then we thought, okay, how can we break it down into small actions? And so we added to this program that we would not eat meat one day a week. So that was the commitment that the kids made. So every day that they didn't eat meat that one day, they would log it on the program Commit to Act. So that they would actually take that, take the app, open it up, and go to the actions. And where, for example, it says eat meal with organic materials, ingredients, they would click on that and say, I did that today. They have the option of adding a photo, so they can take a picture of their lunch and upload it to the site. And what they see at the end of it is they see that their action has added to a global, the number of people around the world who have also taken that action. So a really good way for kids to see the impact that they can make and add to those global actions. Another great resource within Taking It Global, it's the international page. And we hear on the news, yesterday was International Chocolate Cupcake Day, which I thought was awesome. But these are international days based on the United Nations International Days. So there are about 200 international days that are listed on this website. And let me just go and get the site, and then I'll explain it. I'll put the Commit to Act, but you'll be getting all of these in the resources as well. So you can click on any month and search the international days. So for example, in June, June 20th is World Refugee Day. So when you go to that that page, it will give you a little bit of information about what World Refugee Day is. There's also International Polar Bear Day, there's International Day of the Girl Child, you know, International Human Rights Day. They're just, you can see the ones that are listed for June. With those are also some resources that can support your investigations into these days. So this was used as a resource by a school in Toronto. The TDSB participated in a social innovation course with Taking It Global that uses the principles of taking action on global issues. And the students were, you know, they hear on the news, they knew last spring that we were having refugees coming to Canada. So the students decided to take action. So this little kindergarten class, they decided to collect backpacks, brand new backpacks, and fill them with things like socks and school supplies and mittens, things that they really felt that they needed these children to have when they went to school. So this kindergarten class collected 200 backpacks, filled 200 backpacks and took them to a refugee center in Toronto, and they were distributed to children who were going to be starting school. And that was definitely a really meaningful project to the kids, but it just came from the teacher and the students asking the question, what do the refugees need to be, you know, what would the refugees need when they're coming to Canada? So Shazadi, we'll be approving your membership. So that'll be great. We'll do that at the end of the night, right before I go to bed. I'll make sure that gets done. Another part of the Taking It Global website that can be supporting your students' inquiry and understanding some of these world issues is the Global Issues page, and I'll put that. I'm going to put those three: the World Refugee Day and the Backpack Project in there, and also the Global Issues page. So the Global Issues page is separated into the big global issues that are matching the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you go into the one that, for example, with education, there are videos, there are links to different organizations around the world, there's some literature, lots of media in there that will support your students' investigations. And I know that even as young as students in about grade 4, when we started with Taking It Global, this was one of the very first sections of their website. And when we were studying issues like students' lack of education, we would send them this as a primary source of information because it was all vetted. A lot of it comes from the United Nations and reliable organizations, and we knew that it would be a safe, secure place for the students to be doing some investigations of these issues. This Taking It Global also is prepared a guide for action for students. So, I need to add that link. So that link will definitely be in the resource page. Let me just make a note of that. I must have just, sorry about that. So the guide to global action is a guide that explains helps you and your students go through the process of what is global action, what are global citizens, their activities that get them into that mindset of how they can take their ideas and their passions. As you know, for example, the students who were wanting to make those backpacks for the refugee kids, how to take those ideas and form them into action, and it guides them through that process. And it's really written for students, but teachers can be using it as facilitated activities as they go along. A really valuable resource. Sort of partnered. Oh, yeah, I'll find the link. I'm sorry, I must have missed that one. Another organization that's partnered with Taking It Global is called the Center for Global Education. And the Center for Global Education was founded by a high school teacher, Terry Godwalt, he's in Edmonton, Alberta. And he uses, oh, that's good, Kate. He connects with experts around the world who are involved in some of these global issues. For example, for the International Day of the Girl Child, he connects with young girls who were forced to be child brides. And they talk about their experiences about having to be forced to be married when they were 12 and 13 years old, and how they were rehabilitated back into society and are now going to school. But they're connecting with kids in Canada, the United States, Australia, Taiwan, England, and our kids don't have those perspectives. But Terry has a really rich sort of menu of experts that he can connect with to connect those experiences to the kids. So he calls them, they're called Global Encounters, and they happen several times a year. There's usually 2 or 3 per month. This start in November. There's a global encounter coming up with international polar bears that I'll talk about in just a second. But if you go to their website, you'll see a whole menu of options that are available. Now, most of these are for, I would say, upper junior to secondary school students, really mostly for grade 8 to 12. But there are some activities like there's a series about how math applies to art and looking at different art styles around the world and mathematical concepts. We have, especially in April, there are a lot of events surrounding Earth Day. So the students can be participating in a global movement called Litterless Lunch Day. So in April, Terry will connect with students from around the world, and they'll be looking at what their lunch looks like, and then sort of examining the kind of the food and the waste that comes from it. And I know that in my class, it would really kind of drive me a little bit crazy, the number of prepackaged treats that the students would bring and the amount of garbage that they would throw out every year. But after we participated in this Litterless Lunch Challenge with kids from around the world, the amount of litter in their lunches really reduced. Commit to Act is the app that the students with the impact, and that'll be in the resources. So take a look at some of the global encounters. I don't think we have time to watch the video, but the video link is in here that you'll be able to watch it in the resources, that you'll be able to watch Terry talk about the process of the global encounters. This is the World Environment Day resource package that comes with the global encounters. So it's not just a standalone project. What happens during the video conference is the students not only meet the expert, but they've done a little bit of work ahead of time. They have an inquiry question that they develop, for example, about climate change, looking at climate change in their area. And what they do is they not only learn from the expert, who is a climate change expert. In this particular case, it's somebody in the Arctic, but they'll be presenting what climate change looks like in their backyard or in their area to the expert, and also what they see is a perspective from different areas of the planet, and see that it's not just, climate change is not just an isolated project, isolated challenge, it's a challenge all over the world, and seeing the different perspectives. So if you have the opportunity to participate in a global encounters, they really are rich and valuable learning experiences. This is one of the spaces of virtual classroom that the students can. Some of the global encounters do take place, the conversations before the video conference happen in virtual classrooms that the students can be posting in. They can be writing blog posts, they can be posting pictures. All of these spaces, the Taking It Global ones, the global encounters, and the Iron spaces are password protected. So they're only the people who are in the project are able to get into the spaces. So for parents, it's really important for them to know that the kids are working in safe spaces where it's only people who are invited to the space who are able to be in there. A couple of the projects that are coming, the global encounters that are coming up at the end of October, October 27th actually, Terry will be speaking to former child soldiers who are from Sierra Leone. One of them who is quite near and dear to our hearts. His name is Mohammed Sidibe, and he was one of the first people that we connected with way back in 2006 2003 or 2004, and at the time he was an orphan. He was a child soldier who had just been liberated in Sierra Leone, and he didn't have a place to live, and he knew that his only path to success was through education. And really long story short, he ended up in the United States, and our students had connected with him through the whole process. They put him through school when he was in Sierra Leone, then he came to the United States, and now he has a degree in peace advocacy from George Washington University, and he'll be going off to the London School of Economics in a couple of years. So, you know, he'll be speaking to the children about how education is, no, it's not Ishmael Bey, but he was definitely involved in this story. His name is Mohammed Sida Bey. And there's another child soldier who will be in the video conference as well, who is still in Sierra Leone. He's a teacher in Sierra Leone, and he speaks. So the kids have the two perspectives, a child soldier who is not in Sierra Leone anymore and one who is still there, and sort of being able to compare and contrast their experiences. Oh, that's amazing that you're from Sierra Leone. It looks like an absolutely gorgeous country, and the people are so great. So this is a picture of our Sida Bey when he was just 14, and well, he was actually younger than that. He was about 12 in the picture on the left, and this was his first day of school on the right when he was in Freetown. So they have done this video conference a couple of times. So this is what a global encounter looks like. So Terry is in the picture on the left, and then connecting with a variety of different classrooms from around the world, at the same time learning from the experts. If you go onto the site, the Global Encounters site, you're able to register for the Polar Bear International Connecting Live to the Canadian Arctic on November the 7th at 11:30. It's November the 7th at about 11, I think it's 11:30. And what's happening there is we'll be connecting live to climate change scientists who are in the Arctic on the tundra buggies. And the scientists will be exploring in the tundra buggies, following the migration of the polar bears. And this is actually a picture of Mike Furtick, who was from Taking It Global, who was up in the Arctic 2 or 3 years ago in the tundra buggy. And right outside the tundra buggy it was a mother polar bear and her 2 cubs, and they were broadcasting that live to the kids in the class. At the same time, the kids were able to see, to speak to the climate change scientists and ask specific questions about what is happening in the Arctic and how the impact of their actions how their actions were impacting what was happening in climate, you know, how it was impacting climate change. And so they were really hearing from the expert why it was important for them to be making wise changes and taking action, and really connecting with them. It was it's an amazing experience if you have the opportunity to do that, because if it's a great day, you see polar bears right outside the window. It's really, really exciting to see that. So in terms of how kids take action, so last year a group of students from Glenview Public School or Middle School in Toronto participated in some of these climate change global encounters, and one of the students, and we'll just watch a little bit of it, I want you to see how they've taken sort of a science, social studies topic and created a piece of digital media that is just, it's quite amazing. Let me go and get that. Actually, I'm going to have to go and get that. I'm going to have to put that link in. We probably don't have time to watch it, but I'll send you the link for this climate change video, because it's quite impactful. The students took over 700 images and made a stop motion animation about how the impact of climate change on our environment. So it's how they took an issue and made it into action. So a lot of these projects have an entrepreneurial kind of an entrepreneurial, social entrepreneurial spirit. Students see an action, they create action plans. Some students have gone ahead and created businesses, nonprofits. The big example in Toronto right now actually is We Day. It's how the Kielburger brothers took a need and how they took their passion, learning about child labor, how they'd learned about child labor so young, and they had taken action to form We Free the Children, and it has become one of the largest social entrepreneurship organizations in the world. Ryan's Well is another organization, a social entrepreneurial sort of spirit that people have, Ryan he's from the Oshawa area and he learned about water and why students weren't able to go to school because of lack of water, and how he created the foundation Ryan's Well. So the Learning Partnership runs a social entrepreneurship contest every year, so your students can participate in that. They can take their action plans and make a business plan and take their ideas and form some sort of, they can create products, they can create foundations, they can build fundraisers, but there's a whole program that will help lead you through this process.
It's cool to say, actually, they partner you up with an actual business, and the business will be your mentor. So I know somebody who did it last year, and they were connected with a local Dairy Queen, and then the students, their job was to develop a new flavored blizzard. So within the classroom, then the teacher divided up the class, and there's a marketing department, a product development department, a finance department. So all the kids had different roles, and they all had to work together. And then the money that they raised, they got a certain percentage of all the sales that were actually, that the Dairy Queen actually sold. And then they donated the profits to a local shelter. And then the shelter came in with their street bus to show them what a difference that their money would actually be making for them. So that's a cool project. And that one, if you're interested in, you'd have to sign up like right away if you want to be part of it this year, because the PD starts in December.
Awesome. And then one other interesting organization that I've just recently learned about is called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And I don't know if anyone in this group has done one of these Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. It's connecting with explorers all over the world who do really cool things. A lot of them are National Geographic explorers. Some of them are photographers, media makers, really interesting people, and I had the opportunity today to connect with one of them. Her name is Jill Heinerth, and she is a cave diver, and I'll show you the video that she shared with the students because it was really inspiring. But they not only are explorers, but they're activists. So Jill is really passionate about climate change. So she uses what she learns in her cave diving experiences and shares it with the students. And yeah, they're really awesome experiences, Dave. And so she really takes those experiences and shares them with the kids, and really ties her passion about cave diving into how kids can take action about climate change. And it doesn't always have to be sort of the explorer spirit. If a student loves to write, they can become a journalist and write blogs about climate change, and or if someone is a photographer or an artist, they can use their art as a way to send a message. But her message to the kids was that we're all connected, and that we need to make these changes in order to have the planet survive, and it was really inspiring. So I've got the link in here for Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and they run about 4 a month. They're all free, which is great, and they're also available on demand. So there's lots of videos that you can watch after. But if you have the opportunity to be in with what they call the live seat, they connect with the experts. So your class has the opportunity, just as in a global encounter, they have the opportunity to be connecting with these experts. And a lot of the times they're in the field. They're actually in the field where they're working. So I'm going to show you, the videos are on YouTube. I'm going to show you Jill's, the video that she shared with the students today, because it was really inspiring, and it was one of those, oh my goodness, this is such a cool connection to make to have your kids make with this expert. So we'll just watch that because it's inspiring and it's uplifting. And so I'll just put that here and we'll watch Jill. I see that a lot of people have finished. Mine actually froze on me. So hopefully you'll be able to go back and watch that video and the video of Terry as well, talking about global encounters. But this is a really exciting program for the kids, and what I like about it is it does show that it's just ordinary people doing extraordinary things who are making change in the world and really helping students understand that they can have an impact the way that these people do as well. So just in the last, we've just got a couple minutes left. We've had some people share about the Me to We organization. If you can just take 1 minute and use the text tool and just make a list of any other projects that you're involved in or that you're aware of that you can be sharing with others. So use the text tool on the left-hand side and just just share with us anything else that you're involved in or that you've heard of that we could maybe also be investigating. Oh, right. Whoever put Global Read Aloud, actually that's a great project. I'll make a note of that, to put that in the resources. Blue Dot Tour, I've heard of that. And I'll find those resources, those links, and put them in the resources. Secret Path. Polar Bears Connect, Deforest Action. Yeah, that's just going to be starting up again soon. Plan Canada, because I am a girl. Good. Oh, those are excellent. Anything available for a grade 5 core French class? Kathy, specifically, I'm not sure. Maybe Jim has an idea of something that a grade 5 core French class can be involved in. I think any of these, like Global Read Aloud, you might be able to find a partner. Holiday cards, we talked to Joanne about doing her holiday cards in French, which would give your students an opportunity to be writing, to do some writing to another class in French. And there's a resource for you from Joanne as well. So thanks for those suggestions. So what's the impact? We'll just have to go really quickly. Taking It Global did a study with students, and 89% increased their cultural awareness. I think that you can find those links appropriate there. Students increased their volunteer activity, and 27% started projects and foundations on their own. I'm going to put a link into some mentor texts that we found really helpful that when we're working through, when we're working with some of these projects. I find, in addition to using some of the resources that we talked about tonight, There are some amazing books and picture books that are out there that help students sort of have a more visual understanding of some of these issues and bringing those issues sort of into situations that they can understand themselves. So again, I just want to close with Jennifer's quote. So I wonder if young people were actively engaged in all aspects of society and thought of themselves as community leaders, problem solvers, role models, mentors, and key stakeholders. How would the world change? So hopefully you can see that some of the projects and activities and sites that we showed you can help develop global citizenship through inquiry-based learning. So we'll maybe have, if it's okay with you guys, we'll take a couple questions. I know we've been trying to answer as we go along. So if anyone has any questions, and then, yeah, this is a great list of books. So if you have any questions, to put them in the chat, and I'll just finish off with, this is our contact information, and we'll put this, I'll put it in the chat, and it will also be on in the resource page that you can reach out to us anytime, especially if you're joining IRON and want some information on that. So here's our contact. Now, just a couple of things from OTS, and thanks for your nice comments. One thing, when you log out of the session, just in a couple of minutes, you'll be directed to a feedback survey, and if you could fill that out, it really helps OTS and the Ministry of Education who fund these programs just see how effective they are, and your thoughts about the webinars and the series of webinars, and also for sharing that with us. And I'll just go get the link to that as well. So you can access that in 3 ways. You can either click on the link that's on the page, or that I'm going to put in the chat right now, or it will take you directly when you exit the Blackboard room. Also, OTS has a lot more webinars coming up, that they run right till the middle of December, and so there are a few more coming up in October, and there's a full calendar in November and a few in December. So if you'd like to take a look at the list of webinars that are coming up, and I'm sure some of you have already registered for some of the great sessions that are upcoming. And that's there. And the last, I'm trying to do like 5 different things. I'll just stop the recording.